talking to you again. You have a new play that you're directing, a new show that you're directing that's coming out in October called Night Watch. So we were just talking a little bit, before the official start about how you are back at work in the pharmaceutical industry. You are also a photographer for weddings and you're super busy with that. And now you're directing a show. So do you sleep? Like, does that happen? Do you just live on energy drinks? How do you do it all?
A few hours during the night we sleep. Yeah, I can get a couple of hours.
You're like, I'm fine. How do you balance all of that though? How do you get through all of those things? Because you have two of those jobs are much more of your creative side, right? The photography, theater takes something of the creative, and then you have maybe a more business aspect side of it with pharmaceuticals. How do you balance all that though and find the time and energy to really put into all of those things? Like, that's insane to me.
And that's the trick. You have to find the time and the energy. So like I have about 3 hours after I'm done with work during the day before I get to rehearsals. So that's when I do some research on my play that I'm working on, and that's how I figure out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to work through what I'm going to tell my actors how to work on what they're working on. And then after that, my weekend work, when I photograph weddings, I just I get an assignment sheet, and I just I speak to the bride beforehand, and I make sure that we know the timeline. And like this weekend, where am I working this weekend? At the Lighthouse, Chelsea Piers. So I mean, it just
that's a beautiful location. That's going to be gorgeous.
It's a nice location. It's a beautiful location. Yeah. So that's that's basically how I do things. And then Sunday Sunday's my day off, and
everybody needs a day of rest. You gotta have a day of rest.
But Sunday night's a rehearsal night, so but it's been a little bit. I mean, the rehearsal process has been a little choppy because everybody's on vacation. So I think.
Right, as the summer's ending, everybody's taking their time away.
Oh, so we have to read in some of the actors, but I think next week is when everybody comes back, and then we just run with our heads down and run till October.
Oh my gosh. And October. So let's talk about this play, Night Watch. First of all, what is it about and why did you choose it?
It's a wonderful murder mystery play. I mean, it was given to me. I didn't really choose it, but it was given to me as a October slot. And at first, when I read the play, it was okay until the last 2 pages, and then it just blew my mind. The last 2 pages of the play. So it's a very interesting ending of the show. Can't reveal it, but it's a wonderful, wonderful ending. And if I direct it the way I'm thinking about directing it, the audience will, and it'll get to the audience, and the audience will be zapped by it. It's just amazing.
That's what you want. You want that payoff in a murder mystery where you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. I did not expect that. That has now immediately turned around. So now, how do you? Obviously, I mean, when we talked last time, it was a very different situation because we were still, it wasn't an open theater, and it was still for the digital, digitally filmed and more of an on-demand to view it, which was such a cool thing that Heights Players did. But now you get to be back in the theater. So now do you feel like, okay, there's a sense of like coming home, that you're like, oh, we're back in the space doing it like we should?
Nothing like live theater. There's absolutely nothing like live theater. The energy, the creativity, it's just amazing. And when I had the auditions for the show, we got so much talent that it was literally very difficult for me to cast the show. Corrine is my stage manager and my confidant. And after the callbacks, we spent about 2 hours trying to match the actors together, and every one of them had positives, and every one of them could have done the role. And it's just amazing that the talent came through. I'm happy with my cast that I have now. I'm just, the actors all the actors know the ending of the play. So my job now is to make sure that they don't give the ending of the play away while they're working the play.
Right. Is that they keep the audience guessing so that you really get that big payoff reveal at the end.
And we've had like 5 rehearsals so far, and it's pretty good. They're getting it. They're getting what I need them to get.
So having obviously more choices than not, when you have an audition, you have people coming out, you're like, oh, it's a great thing to have so many people that you're like, oh, it's hard to decide who to choose for these roles. So when you started the audition process, did you have people in mind? And then were there surprises in the audition process? And how did you make those final decisions based on who you ended up casting?
I had a few people in mind, and I actually heard from them. They were going to come in an audition, and I said, "Fine, I'd like you to come to audition."
Hmm.
Then there were people that came that I didn't even know, and they wowed me with what they came the auditions, but they nailed the audition, and I gave them callbacks, and then some of them I offered them roles, and it was just an amazing thing. And then people just walked right in, and some of the actors just were naturals for the
Hmm.
role. And when I get a whole group like that, where you really don't need to direct the characterization because they got it,
Yeah.
they're on the road, then it's my job is very easy. My job is just to create the environment. Um, and this way, that's what I have for this particular show. And I've been very blessed and lucky. All the shows that I've directed for the Heights Players, I've got lots of talent, and I've gotten who I wanted. The cast was wonderful, and just the shows became wonderful, and they went off without a hitch.
The Heights Players is a really, really good. And I mean, I know I say this biasly because I've worked with you guys, but I mean, an incredible group of people to work with. And it's fun and exciting when you see that new blood because it's it's both exciting and fun to see people that take on roles and that they can do a good job, but it's still really satisfying to see somebody bring out the best in a role, and also even more satisfying when they do a role that maybe you hadn't pictured them in or hadn't thought of them taking on this kind of character, and you're like, oh my gosh, I get to see you in a whole new light. But it's also really fun to bring in that new blood and kind of be able to have new fresh eyes on things and go, oh, okay, cool, yes, I like this perspective, let's go with this for for a second.
The actor's journey is one of my important things. I want them to enjoy what they're doing, and I want them to love the journey that
Mm.
they're on right now. And because I tell them in the beginning, it says, you know what, it's gonna go like that. It's gonna
Yep,
you work hard, and then all of a sudden you're gonna open, and then all of a sudden you're gonna close, and you're gonna what happened.
exactly, exactly. And then also, this being now Night Watch is going to be the second show that's back in the theater, which is, I'm sure, adding to this excitement because it's been so long since you've been able to have a show in front of people and have that live theater experience. Is there an energy that you're feeling in the rehearsals or even in the preparation process where you're like, oh, there's just this different sort of buzz that kind of it's a different sort of excitement than what's usually there because of how long it's been?
Yeah. I mean, it started immediately when we went into the rehearsal space, and actually, Casa Valentina is the first show, but that was
Yep.
last year's show.
Right, which is now, I mean, I find that what a
And
full circle moment that was the show
so
that was
Night Watch is
fun
actually the first show this year, so
of
it's
this season.
this season. So it's
Yeah,
interesting, but it's a we upon the first reading, we just went into a rhythm and an energy, and everybody's like, on par. We're all there,
mhm.
all with it.
So now part of this cast, so you do have newbies that you haven't worked with before in this cast, as well as other people that you have?
Well, actually, I worked with only one other person in the cast. Actually, two people in the cast. Everybody else is new. That for me.
Wow.
But I know a couple. I think five of the cast members are brand new from outside, and
Wow.
the other people I know, and then two people I worked with before on one of my other shows.
So now does your approach and does your, I guess, back and forth in conversations, do they differ the way that you approach an actor that you've worked with before and talking to them about their character, or even the way that you give them direction versus somebody that you're like, okay, I'm working with you for the first time, you kind of have to feel each other out? Or do you just sort of, it's like, no, I'm just going to approach and deal with everybody in the same way?
I usually deal with everybody the same way. I tell them, we have 6 weeks of rehearsal. The first 2 weeks are yours.
Mhm.
And if you can grow, I want you to show me, or, get into what you want to do. After that, we're going to lock things in. And if I want you to go in a different direction, I'll point you in a different direction. If you're going in the wrong direction in the beginning, I will point you in the right direction. So after the first 2 weeks, we're going to lock in, blocking, lock in, what you got, what energy level you have, and lock in what I want you to do. And then we move forward.
And when you direct a murder mystery, I would imagine that there's a lot of sense of misdirection that you're trying to give to the audience to make them guessing, to make sure that they don't, pre-guess what the ending is, to really make them surprised. How do you go? I mean, I'm sure it's also in the writing as well, where there's all this misdirection, but how do you have fun with that in the staging and the blocking and how do you add to what's on the page to increase that kind of misdirection for the audience?
I mean, Lucille Fletcher wrote a beautiful play, and it's a great show. It's a great play. However, we are experiencing at this point all the levels and the layers of each character, and it's a fun rehearsal where we talk about, well, it could go this way, it could be this way. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we're all putting it together now, and it's a nice journey for the actors. It's really a nice journey. They're getting really deep into what they're doing, and they're making right choices. And of course, it's my job to show the audience that whatever choices they make is not going to reveal the ending. And
right, you don't want to let that one go. You want to keep that tight to your chest.
I keep that close.
You've mentioned a couple times about the importance of the actor's journey, but also the journey for yourself as a director and the satisfaction that you get. You've been doing this for a while, and this is something that obviously it sort of becomes rhythmic in a way, I guess, the process, right? Like, even though your shows that you do might be different, there's a rhythmic process. Like, this is how I prepare my show, and this is how I first go after it. But do you find that now, having done the digital film version, and now that you're coming back, do you think that now that we're coming out of a pandemic and we're kind of getting back, I mean, we're still in it, but we're getting back to a little bit of that pre-pandemic normalcy, do you find that you have changed and that you're maybe bringing some things that you learned about adapting for a pandemic back into the theater?
Actually, no, because with the videos that I worked with, I rehearsed the actors, and we had a good rehearsal process, and we built the characters before the camera turned on. And I grabbed it, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'm doing here, and it's a growth process. It's a wonderful process for the actors. It's a wonderful process for me. I can see it happening when you see it happening, it's like, whoa, that's really nice.
Yeah. And I guess that's probably one of the major differences between the rehearsals, during the height of the pandemic versus now, is being able to physically be there for moments and to feel that energy and certain things that are happening that you lose when you're doing it on Zoom. Like, you can still see the characters building, but there is really something to seeing it physically happen in front of you and being able to be in the space where certain moments are happening that you can't feel that energy on the screen.
Zoom rehearsal is okay for reading, but it's not okay for like relationships and developing and blocking and going through emotions. And once you get out off the Zoom recording, you get into a live theater, it's life. It just becomes magical.
Yeah. And now I know you can't say much about the show because you don't want to give it away, but is there a scene or a moment that when you read it that you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this come to life, whether it's just a character that is so beyond out there, or just a certain moment that feels really touching or just was surprising, not in giving away any clues, but is there a moment that you can't wait to see brought to life from the pages?
Yeah, there's a phone call that happens during Act 1, and it happens in Act 1, and I'm just trying to, and it's amazing. Every time I hear the actor work the phone call, I'm saying to myself, who's he talking to? I'm trying to figure out who they're talking to, and it's like there was no clue as to who they're talking to. So we gotta make that real. But that phone call to me was like, whoa, this is a very interesting what's going on here.
Oh, I love it.
It kind of like it kind of pushes you in a direction, but again, that's only Act 1.
Yeah, right.
I think what I wanted to do with Kareem was, when I got all the actors together, is rip out the last 2 pages and let's just work the actors and not tell them the last 2 pages and show them, and the reveal is what's happening. But that would have been an interesting ask, but
That actually, that is a really interesting way to approach it. That maybe it's like, you know what, now that we've done it where we let them know how the ending is, maybe next time we take that away until we get closer, because I wonder if it would change choices. If it would change the way that people approach their characters and maybe even make it more interesting or deceptive for themselves and therefore the audience, because they're like, oh, I completely approach this a totally different way than I would have. But that might be a really interesting way to do it.
Yeah, and that would be. But then, like, this is my first murder mystery, so it's like, next time I do,
Mhm.
I'm gonna look at the back and then maybe tear a couple of pages out and say, this is what's going on.
I like that. I think next time, now that once you've gotten this first murder mystery under your belt, I think that that's the way to go for next time. And whether it's a theater, film, or TV, or the people around you, everybody's important to the success of a production. The actors, the crew, the direct, like every aspect of it is really important because everybody brings something to the table that helps create and finish this product, or this, not product, that's a horrible way to call it, this piece of art, this production. How important is your crew to you, and knowing, especially, you have, your right-hand person who's Korean in this, having that relationship where you're like, okay, we have our own language, we know how we work, we know what each other need. I mean, that's got to make such a huge difference in pulling off, especially in community theater where, everybody's working on different things at different, they have their own lives, you're trying to balance schedules, nobody can dedicate 100% of their time and energy to this one thing because we're all doing it for the love of it. So it's got to be important to have the people that are going to get you and what you want to do for that production around you.
Yeah, I have used the same crew on every play that I've directed with Heights Players, because I call them the A-team. I've got Leo for my lighting, I've got Gary for the sets, and I've got Karina as my stage manager, and we all work together, and that's what brings it all forward. And it's a beautiful thing.
And now, how has this, I guess, the pandemic in a way, and the arts, and now coming, we're again coming back to that little bit of that normalcy. Have you changed in the sense from even your show earlier this summer, like as a director? I mean, I know you said that you're like, no, the process, I haven't taken anything from it, but it's something about your love for the arts or your appreciation for it, or even just, I guess, the enjoyment that you take out of it. Has any of that changed? Because I feel like for me, the arts, movies, TV, film, music were such an integral part of me getting through it, that now, even though we're kind of coming out of it, I look at everything a little bit differently. Like I have a different sort of appreciation for the arts and what they can do, and realizing, oh my gosh, how important they are to our own mental stability when we're getting through difficult situations.
Oh yeah, I mean, the video stuff that I did a few months ago, I want to do more, because it's very creative, and I think I can, do better than what I did before. But and that drives me forward. I think I also want to record this show that we're doing now, to see if we can have it ready to go for on demand if we ever do that, to put it on the shelf and have it.
Yes, I actually think I would love to see, the Heights Players with like overhead cameras or cameras in the back that kind of sit above the audience, where you can capture the stage from different angles and really record, like they did for Hamilton on Disney Plus, like record the production so that even if it's during a dress rehearsal, like the final dress rehearsal where the audience isn't there and you can really get cameras in and up, I think it would be wonderful to tape these shows, because you're right. I mean, imagine looking back in 10 years, we did this show back then, and look at where this actor is now, or even just the history of the Heights Players. We have the posters up on the hallway, but imagine having these physical shows that we can go back and watch. I just think that's so cool. Why would we not want to do that?
I volunteer my time to photograph all the shows that we had. So I do photos, I do show photos for everything. So we have a historical event of every show that we've done the last 2 or 3 years. I think I started 4 years ago to photograph every show. So we have all those in the bank. I mean, we have photos, still shots. But to bring it to a live camera and record it would be very interesting. So
that'd be great.
We're gonna see.
I love it. I love a good murder mystery too. For me, I grew up watching Murder She Wrote and Matlock and Columbo. I mean, I loved all of those. I still love it. By the way, Murder She Wrote is available to watch. Like it's on Amazon
Oh,
Prime. You can stream
Columbo
it, which is
too.
amazing.
Columbo
Is
is.
it? I love it. I mean, they're so much fun as an audience member to try and figure out what's happening the entire time, but it's also just a lot of those shows really combined comedic elements with that kind of thriller murder mystery aspect as well. And there's so many, that's the thing, I think murder mystery, you can have so much fun with it. It can be as goofy and ridiculous as Clue. It
Yeah.
can also be really dark and thrilling and suspenseful for the audience. I mean, it can be dramatic. You can tie so many genres into murder mystery. Where does Night Watch fall? Where do you think it falls mostly in that murder mystery?
I'm going into the dark area.
Ooh. No wonder you want to set the tone with some background the entire time. Really keep the audience uncomfortable and on their toes.
I like that's the type of work I like doing. But there are some there is some comic elements in it also. I will tell you that there's a couple of comic reliefs in it, but the dark way is where I like to go.
That's also, I think, even more challenging to keep up in a live element. Sure. Because you don't have the benefit of editing and certain cuts or pullaways or a lot of times in film and TV, a really creepy, haunting show, that music is so important to set that tone. So for you to be able to pull that off, and hopefully it's possible to do, because that would add so much to the atmosphere, and that will automatically put everybody on it. Like that's such a cool thing to do too, because I think I'm so glad that it's coming back in person. I'm just excited to have that energy and that buzz that's there for live theater, to see it. I can't wait to see Casa Valentina, and I can't wait to see Night Watch. I mean, this is just so exciting to have everybody back in a way that just, it's invigorating. When you leave a live show, you leave feeling, I know this is going to sound so super like out there or hippy dippy, but you feel just, your soul feels filled. You feel spiritually or just emotionally filled after a live show, whether that's music or theater. It's just, there's something about having that experience with other people and living that experience in that moment.
It's very rewarding, and the season was really very good. It's punched with a lot of nice plays, and it's going to be great.
It's going to be so good. Joe Pacifico, Night Watch in October at the Heights Players. So excited. I can't wait to see if I can guess what's going to happen. I mean, I want to be totally surprised, but I also want to feel super smart and like Angela Lansbury Murder She Wrote and be like, I knew this whole time because I got it. It's probably not going to happen. I probably won't be able to guess. Thank you so much for hanging out and speaking with me, and best break a leg with the rest of all the preparations and the rehearsals, and can't wait to see this come to life.
Thank you for having me.